The June 24th, 2025 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors is hereby called to order. We will begin with the land acknowledgement, which I will be reading. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Shahobs people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community. That then takes us to the flag salute. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're wearing a hat, which I don't think I see any, we don't need to worry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
And now for the roll call, will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mitchell.
Present.
Vice President Herman.
Present.
Director Revelinsky.
Present.
Director Atkins.
Present.
Director Lawrence.
Present.
Next, we have the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, were there any changes to the agenda after it was published?
Yes, Madam Chair, there were two changes to the agenda. Item 11.16, approval of the Memorandum of Understanding with Eastern Washington University for the college and the high school was deleted from the agenda and will be placed on the July 1 agenda. Item 13.01, graduation update. The date in the presentation was updated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any objection to this meeting agenda being adopted by general consent? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted by general consent, which takes us to section 6.0 recognitions. And I just have to say, sadly, there are none for this meeting as school is out. Section 7.0 superintendent's report. Dr. Saltzman.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. I'd like to share my report with everybody. We'd like to start to congratulate the class of 2025. We recently held 4 successful commencements in our district. Each one was filled with pride and celebration. I'd like to take this time to thank our families for the support, our principals, assistant principals, teachers, and all staff, and even senior staff and our board that was there for your leadership to our graduations events that took place. It is an honor to see our youngsters cross the stage, and wow, just a beautiful moment. Before our graduates walked across the stage, many participated in grad walks, one of our most meaningful traditions in our system. Seniors returned to their elementary schools to walk hallways lined with cheering students and former teachers. Tonight, you'll receive our full graduation report from Dr. Jeannie Willard. We're looking forward to that excellent report. Thank you. I'd like to end my report tonight with a huge thank you to our teachers and administrators for an incredible year from start to finish. We started strong, we finished strong. Really want to thank everybody in the system. And to our students, I want you to have a safe summer, okay? Learning does not stop over the summer. So please check out our summer learning and reading website to keep you engaged. And to our public, we have a website there that will tell you some summer activities that you could participate in. So want to make sure everybody has a safe, healthy, and fun summer. And that does conclude my report this evening. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Director Lawrence, would you like to begin us with our board comments?
You know, I really enjoyed the graduation ceremonies. It was just so exciting to see the students, and I was thrilled when they could walk across the stage, and just to think about all that it took to do that, all the hard work studying, and all of the people that support the students to get to that point, you know, whether that be families, teachers, administrators, friends, neighbors, just everyone. It was a spectacular moment. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Dr. Atkins.
Yeah, I don't have much to report either. I also attended some of the graduations and just was really it was such a great opportunity to get to see how much these students have come, and especially the Sequoia graduation. It's so incredible to get to just know who these kids are and see what wonderful, bright futures they have in front of them. So that's all for my report.
Director Ovalinsky.
Sure. I think we're all probably going to talk about graduation. It was an honor to attend the graduation ceremonies, including the gold celebration, which I thought was awesome. To add to these comments, I would also say kudos to the folks that put on the event. That just has to be a real heavy logistical lift. My daughter played in the band for Cascade 2, and even that was tough. So excellent. I'm proud to see so many young adults finishing this chapter and starting a new one, whether it be college, work, service, or project search, their next steps. Celebrating and sharing this milestone with the students was a reminder of what this work is all about, and one graduate even did a backflip on stage. So they're really jazzed. Their success reflects their own hard work, the support of their families and guardians, and the dedication of the teachers and staff that helped them through their educational journey. Congratulations to the class of 2025. In addition to that, I met with the Everett PTSA Council Advocacy Chair with Director Lawrence. We talked about, I gave her some information. That's Dolly Ubriani, by the way. Gave her a breakdown of our legislative outcomes. And we also talked about the session more generally, what went well, and of course, a commitment to partner next year.
Thank you. Director Herman.
Excellent. First of all, happy summer, everyone. So first, just a big thank you to the district leadership and staff for finishing the year as it began, very strong. Since our last board meeting, I was able to attend various graduation events, as we've already heard, including transition graduations for Project Search, Strive, and Goal, the ceremonies for our graduating students at Sequoia, Everett, Cascade, and Jackson High School. I was also able to see the promotion for Goal students over at the Carl Gibson Center, and the grad walk for Jackson Elementary School, where not only graduating seniors came back to walk the halls, but also former staff came back. That's been such a neat tradition that has been established in our schools. All of these once again emphasize for me how important our school cultures are, how we are so much more than just the academic learning that takes place inside classrooms, and how central relationships are to our shared community that we have in Everett Public Schools. This was clear in all of the end of the year celebrations and events, and always makes it a little bittersweet for me as we celebrate those that are moving on. But we also look forward to welcoming all the new students, families, and staff that will be joining us this summer. So again, just a big thank you for making this a terrific year in our schools. It has been a really great year. And on one final note, I just want to say, Dr. Salzman, congratulations on being recognized this past weekend. Truly well earned. So well done. That's it.
Thank you, and I'll continue with the graduations. I don't think I've honestly ever been as proud of the students and staff of this district as I was while watching the graduations from Sequoia, Everett, Cascade, and H.M. Jackson high schools this year. The diversity of our students and their heartwarming and honest stories about immigration, feelings of isolation, and what they've overcome, as well as sharing the love and support from their family, sometimes brought tears to my eyes. The students also spoke about the communities they have found in our schools. So more than the diversity, it was also that feeling of inclusion, and just so proud of this district. When I was volunteering in the schools, though, I was reminded of a different kind of diversity in our district. It's not black, white, or brown, but opportunity. I met a young student who reported that they did not know how to read, and also that they did not have someone to read to them at home. And I was sad by this, but I then took the opportunity to read to the student, and then asked Dr. Saltzman and Bowden, like, what do I do next time? So I really appreciate the support that they're giving me to, because I hope to continue to volunteer next year at this library. But then just to close, that our work will not end, as we will always have new students and challenges, and which I think is great. And I am just so thankful that we have what it takes to help each of these students be successful. During this end of the school year, I said let's, but I still have work to go back to next week. But take some time to reflect on all the amazing work that we have done, and pause if you can during your summer break or vacations before we continue our important work again. So thank you. And again, Dr. Saltzman, congratulations. And that takes us on to public comment. Dr. Saltzman, I do see that we have 7 speakers and then 2 people that wrote in written requests. So I will do these in order this time. Unfortunately, I did not do that last time. So our school board sets aside 15 minutes during the regular board meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and we want to hear and understand the perspectives you bring to the table. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak. As board president, I have the responsibility to ensure that our board meetings are conduct district business in public. We do this in an orderly, productive, and respectful manner. We welcome ideas and opinions presented in that same manner. Thank you for helping me with this responsibility. The entire board welcomes you to this public meeting. It is important that you understand how this portion of the board meeting is conducted. We will call you to the podium to speak in the order in which you signed up to speak tonight. All comments are recorded, so the board will have access to everything said tonight. Repetition is not necessary as it cuts into the time others have to speak. The public comments part of the agenda is for the board to listen to what you have to say. It is not for debate or discussion. Board members do not respond to individual comments. And lastly, please remember that your words have impact, and you, not the school district, are responsible for your words. We caution all speakers it is possible that your statements may violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy and laws prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure of the legal effects of your remarks, you should seek independent legal advice. In any case, we ask that you help us model a respectful, inclusive community for our students. So that will take us to the first speaker. Lawrence Ambuguri, thank you, is a resident of the district and would like to speak about the Constitution. So, Mr. Ambuguri, when you come up to the podium, you will see 3 little buttons there at the top. You do not need to adjust the microphone. It is quite potent. And when the green light comes on, you can begin speaking.
Okay,
And then when the yellow light comes on, you'll have 30 seconds left.
okay, thank you. As a former evangelist or evangelical Christian, I am intimately familiar with the ultimate goals of LifeWise Academy, which is to terminate our U.S. Constitution's separation of church and state and to indoctrinate as many students as possible with their particular religious ideologies. And they begin this by very subtly by saying that they encourage students to show love, respect, and gratitude towards others, which all caring parents and people do regardless of their beliefs. LifeWise also claims that they are non-political, which is deceptive, and this is due to their affiliations with the Heritage Foundation, the Family Research Council, Project 2025, and Christian nationalism. Also, with the Everett Public School District saying they do not endorse LifeWise Academy is disingenuous. This is because you allow students to wear t-shirts with LifeWise Academy's logo prominently displayed on their shirts. And you also allow Academy students to bring back religious literature from LifeWise Academy with no guarantee that they will not distribute them to other students or accidentally leave them in full view of others to see. So logic would conclude that Everett Public School District does endorse LifeWise Academy by proxy. So remember, their ultimate goal is to terminate the separation of church and state and to indoctrinate as many people as possible to adopt their religious ideologies. These efforts will jeopardize equal rights for all people and threatens the preservation of democracy. And these ideologies is what our founding fathers and the author of our Constitution warned us about. Now, you may think I'm a little bit radical about this, but I speak from direct experience because I had a street ministry for almost 10 years. This was my focus like what the Heritage LifeWise or LifeWise Academy was to get as many people to join the church and to believe what I believed in, and was very successful at that. And you're welcome to check out to fact check what I said. It sounds radical, but I speak from experience. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to Jennifer Phillips McClellan, who is a resident of the district and would like to speak about Zorach versus Clausen and the law. Just wait for that green button, please.
Good afternoon. There's an age-old propaganda technique called the big lie, that if you tell a known lie often enough and treat it like the truth, that it will eventually be accepted as the truth. There's another age-old concept among some Christian groups that says it's okay to lie as long as it's to Satan in the service of God. Here's the big lie of LifeWise. School districts shall let them operate. They cite Zorach versus Clausen in support of their big lie. But here's the truth. The Zorach doesn't say a district shall allow organizations to take children out of school. It says districts may allow students to leave for religious instruction. It actually doesn't address organizations coming onto school property with buses at all. I'm old enough to actually have taken civics in public school, so I learned the difference in strictly legal terms between may and shall. May is permissive, but that means it also grants permission for the opposite, may not. Washington State is a well-known may state, which means our state law does not demand that you allow organizations to take kids out of school for religious instruction. Here's another LifeWise lie, that their program is opt-in. You heard the truth at the last board meeting that a parent had to give written permission for their child to opt out. That actually does go against Zorach versus Clausen. Here's yet another LifeWise lie, that their organization is non-denominational and not a church. Here's the truth. Their curriculum is created by the Southern Baptist Convention, which is the largest evangelical denomination in the country. And another huge point of fact that you should know, earlier this month, LifeWise filed in the Ohio Supreme Court as a religious denomination that its employees minister to students, all to avoid an investigation and lawsuit against LifeWise for violating labor laws. All these lies. And what I'm left with, what I don't understand, is why you, the board, seem so very willing to accept your role as Satan in LifeWise's horrific passion play. Through your apparent acceptance of all of their lies, including their biggest lie, that you are powerless to stop them, one begins to wonder if the role that LifeWise has assigned to you is in fact true. But ironically, not for the reasons that they say. No, I'm beginning to believe that the board does not in fact care about the diverse and beautiful student body of Everett students. You cannot possibly care and still be content to sit on your hands and do nothing to protect them. I find it frankly infuriating. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Dana Sanders about safety and security. Thank you. Oh, yeah, none of us is perfect.
All right, so right now, it is my understanding that there is a third-party organization conducting business on site at Emerson. The schools have an agreement with parents. We bring our children to school for the services that the school provides, along with the SLPs, the OTs, the counselors. All of those services are provided by the school district for our children, not by outside organizations. The fact that there is an organization coming onto campus and removing children is a de facto partnership that the school district is not acknowledging and pretending doesn't exist. But what I And I've heard from many that our hands are tied. This is someone else's problem. But if you cannot rescind permission for an organization to conduct their business on school property, and I am referring to LifeWise, but also any other religious organization, then you should not be granting that permission. So if your hands are tied, to ask them to leave. You cannot allow them to stay. And I would say, I would like you to stop the agreement until it is determined who or what entity has the power or control over this situation. Because if you're not, I don't let my children open the front door to strangers. That's my job. I am the one who is the first line of safety for my children. And so is Emerson Elementary, so is the Everett School District. You cannot open that door if you are saying you don't have the power to close it and refuse entry. So I would ask that you stop this agreement until it is determined who can open that door or what those parameters are. But that doesn't change the ability for parents to sign out their children for religious instruction. So as a parent who does sign their children out for religious instruction for holidays, for special events, as is my right, all other parents still maintain that right. Rescinding it for an organization has no impact on the ability of a parent to still exercise their religious freedoms at any time. But particularly if during the school day is when they need to do it, this doesn't jeopardize that at all. So thank you for your attention to this. Thank you for continuing to support parents in the education goals that they have for their children and for protecting those front doors so that people who walk in there aren't bad actors, or that we at least know who they are, and that all families know who they are, even if they didn't opt in to let them in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kathleen Bergler, a resident of the district, keeping schools welcoming to all. Wait for the green light. Thank you.
Thanks again for having me. The last time I was here, I spoke about the community and its importance in being fostered in our schools, and my concerns about LifeWise doing just the opposite. So I wanted to share a little bit more on this topic. I have this small poster in my house, and it shows two crows sitting on a branch, and one crow has a little twig with some bright red berries and offering that to the other crow. And under the image, it says, "Share the risk." Prior to the last few weeks, this saying barely registered with me, but now as we watch the cruelty, the ferocity, the lethality of what's happening to our friends and neighbors in other states, I can't help but ask myself how I'm sharing the risk. For whom am I using my voice? For what values am I willing to fight? And so I'm back here again, speaking up and speaking out. The birds in the poster with the bright red berries know that red is a danger color. We all know this. In fact, we've copied nature's warning signs, warning hue for stop signs, street lights, sirens, emergency equipment. Everybody knows what a red flag is these days. And red tells us to put on the brakes, to be cautious, to gather all needed information that will allow us to move forward in a way that keeps ourselves and those around us safe. And by pure happenstance, LifeWise has adopted red as their identifying color. With the t-shirts and the buses, they use it to segregate and separate, to mark the special ones, to favor some children and to other the rest, to draw lines of different, of us and them. They draw those lines thicker and firmer, the very antithesis of community. I see this as a warning. If Everett Schools continues on without a clear set of policies, if the school board abdicates responsibility just to kick the issue down the line, if there are no clear lines of leadership, no transparent goals or objectives for expansion, then no one's in charge, and LifeWise will continue its agenda of Christianizing our public schools. I loudly, respectfully, and adamantly demand the board put an immediate pause on their agreement with LifeWise until such time as they have established a clear set of policies so that everyone, teachers, parents, staff, and most importantly, students, feel seen and heard, valued and safe included, and equal.
Thank you. Next is Janine Desmaris, and I know I said that wrong, the absence policy.
Demery, thank you.
Thank you. There you go.
Good afternoon, board members. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell, for your response to my previous inquiry into the RTRI policy, or lack thereof, according to your email to me. As you clarified, there is no official RTRI policy in the Everett School District. It made me wonder if there are guardrails in place to protect our students from potentially harmful people or situations. If there is no policy in regards to releasing children to a third party, why was LifeWise allowed to begin removal of students if there is no policy? Again, this is not a constitutional mandate, it was an opinion. The board allowed this, but why? We often hear this 50-parent signature threshold being thrown around in newspaper articles. It is the reason for moving forward. If there is no official policy, why is it discussed? But also, how was this threshold created? Is this minimum signature requirement something the board agreed to? If so, based on what? I had the opportunity to speak with Superintendent Reichdahl on Sunday, and he expressed concern over the situation and feels that this could potentially be a legislative issue. I told him I disagree, as schools in the state of Ohio where LifeWise originated have already voted to remove them from schools before a law was passed and unfortunately are now being reintroduced against the will of the people. That should be a glaring red waving flag to all who are even questioning whether allowing LifeWise was a good decision to begin with. Taking all this into consideration, it seems that it would be reasonable to suspend any religious institutions from removing children from school until OSPI and the Everett School District can craft an actual policy and clear up the muddy waters that this situation has created. For example, the policy for absences says the following: a student, upon the request of a parent or guardian, may be excused to participate in religious instruction for a portion of a school day, provided the activity is not conducted on school property and provided that the student's regular educational program is not disrupted. This says nothing about releasing to a third-party organization. It suggests the parents themselves should be present to sign out their child. We're asking for a narrow interpretation of this policy. I will end with a story about a different branch from the same Heritage Foundation tree. I wore my Defend Roe shirt today. I have not worn it since the day Scoutess decided that women's lives no longer mattered 3 years ago today. I wear it today because we are in the same place with education in this country as we were the day Roe fell and women are now reduced to gestating corpses. This diseased branches come from the same tree and are spreading further into society with this board's help. It is time to take ownership of the problem this has created by taking a thoughtful pause, by demanding transparency in the process. Nothing less will allow for the respect of the Board of Education to be upheld. Make no mistake, diminishing the workings of public education is exactly their goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we are at our 30 minutes. We allocate, the past 2 meetings, we've allowed people to continue. I would like to continue. So our next person is Chris Martinez, also resident of the district, to also speak about LifeWise taking children out of class. And just wait for that green light, please.
Thank you for your time today. In these days, we are a little scared and we want to turn to fundamental things that give us security and assurance that we're doing the right thing. I suggest that the fundamentals we turn to are the division of church and state, and be reminded of our foremothers and forefathers who escaped religious persecution in Europe, and were determined that that persecution not reoccur in this, the new country that they were founding. When I go to the LifeWise website, the emphasis that they talk about and the fundamentals that they're concerned about is the Bible. And that's what they want to teach. That's what they want to turn to for security. And I don't have to remind you that there are many homophobic passages in the Bible, things that scare me. Even the most innocent first stories that children are taught from the Bible, Noah's flood and all the cute little animals getting on the ark, the whole purpose of that flood was what? To drown people like me, to drown anybody who didn't go along with Noah and his family and the way they saw God's word. I just would like to say that it's scary. It's scary to me that people would turn to old stories like this for their security. I don't want our schools to be used as a base for the spreading of stuff that is, I consider, poisonous and scary. Children who are not religious, that would be my grandchildren, shouldn't be made to feel left out because they don't have another little shirt that looks like the other kids, or don't have a program to go to, and are sitting out their lunch periods. It's a very bad precedent. And I'm sure you're having your attorney look into the case that LifeWise claims supports them. And I hope you look at it carefully in light of what our founding fathers and mothers would have liked you to pay attention to. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carol Morgan, a resident of the district, about background checks for unofficial meetings. Wait for the green light to come
Hi.
on.
Oh, thank you all for.
There you go, now you can go.
Pardon? Okay, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you being thoughtful about this subject. I want to start with just a little bit of my background. When my kids were in school, youngsters, I taught them to read as soon as they could be propped up. They had a book in their hand. And later on, as they got older, I volunteered to do tutoring for kids who were not caught up with the class. They would come out of school for a half hour, and then I would give them opportunity to read books. And how thrilled they were when they got to a chapter book. It was like growing up. Well, the point I wanted to make about that is I was required to have a background check. I was not left alone with the children. I sat in the hallway at a desk. I was never by myself with them. People came and went in between classes, et cetera, and so forth. So my question to you is, I don't know who these people are that are or having the kids off school grounds, but do you require background checks, or do you even consider it necessary? And if something were to happen for whatever reason to one of these children, would the school district be responsible? I don't know if you've considered this or not, but I think it is something that should be thought about. I do believe that religion can be taught in my son's elementary school. They taught about all religions, Kwanzaa, Jewish, but the menorah. It was an inclusive thing, and it was educational. I don't see this as being inclusive. And if you want to promote a religion, it has to be done equitably. And I want you to consider that, so it can be a learning experience for everybody, not just a few who get a certain viewpoint. It can be educational. I don't think kids are too young to learn about those simple concepts that we are diverse. We are a diverse country. We have many different religions. We need to understand each other, and I think this would be helpful.
Well, thank you. Your time is up.
Did I go over my 3
Yes,
minutes?
yes.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Thank you. Okay, that's my note. Okay, so then we did receive two written requests. So some of you that spoke did ask for written responses, so those will be coming. And then Terry Ambergry, thank you for your written statement about this as a resident of the district, and Nina Purcell also for your written statement. The board will receive your written statements in an email or in our report that we get every Friday, and you will also receive a response. So thank you all for being here tonight. We do appreciate your voices on this matter. And that will take us to our next order of business, legislative updates, and there are none for this meeting, which takes us to the consent agenda. Dr. Saltzman, have you received any questions about the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received no questions regarding items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. First, does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Seeing none, now is there any objection to adopting the consent agenda by general consent? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by general consent. That takes us to strategic progress monitoring, section 12.0. There is none for this meeting, which takes us to section 13.0, information discussion. And I think we get to begin with something exciting with the graduation update for the class of 2025 and preview of the summer graduation. Dr. Willard.
Thank you. I feel like I'm the bookend to the earlier conversation there about our graduation update. So every spring, there's an opportunity to reflect on the students that walked across the stage at all three of our comprehensive high schools, at Sequoia High School, and of course, our Project Search Goal and Strive graduation as well. So with that, this evening, I'll be able to share the published graduation rates. Those are from last year. Share numbers of graduates for the class of 2025 and for the transition programs, provide an overview of graduation requirements, describe many of our systems that lead to students graduating on time, and share a preview of our summer graduation. So with that, our focus is really on reducing gaps in achievement between groups of students, and then also ensuring students are ready for college and career or whatever future they have in store. So with that, I just wanted to remind us of our graduation rates. Graduation rates are published in late fall, early winter, and with that, we will see the graduation rates for the class of 2025 will come out at that time, so we still have a few months till we'll see our actual rates. But for last year, for the class of 2024, our on-time graduation rate or four-year graduation rate was at 95.2%, and our five-year rate, so that's one more year that students needed to graduate, is at 95.8%. So we've steadily been above the state of about 10% each year as we go on. So focusing on the class of 2025, we had 1,233 students that walked last week or the week before, and 23 students who will be continuing in our transition program. So again, those programs are Project Search, Goal, and Strive. Right now, we have 6 students continuing until summer graduation, so lots of support in place. We have clear plans around the students that need a little more time to finish their graduation requirements, and we'll have 5 students continuing as fifth-year seniors. So looking at the data by high school, Cascade High School saw 375 graduates, 4 of their students continuing into transition programs, 1 that will continue through summer graduation, almost there, just looking at it earlier today. H.M. Jackson High School with 487 graduates, 8 students continuing on to our transition programs. At Everett High School, we had 325 graduates, 11 continuing on to the transition programs, 5 continuing until summer graduation. Again, earlier today, looking at those plans, we have kids that are really close and just need a little extra time to finish. They're sitting at the schools right now, finishing up some of the pieces that they need to finish, and they'll be with me during the summer. 3 that will be continuing as fifth-year seniors. And at Sequoia High School, there were 46 graduates on that stage, and 2 students will continue on as fifth-year seniors. If you had the opportunity to come for our transition program graduation, it was a great event. I love this photo, by the way. There were 14 graduates that evening. For all of our transition programs, we're seeing students continue on. They follow in internship programs, they finish any credits that they need to complete, and then at the end of that, they're more job ready, they're ready for independence depending upon the student. Students can continue with us until age 22. So students stay with us, we support them through it. We have a lot of amazing programs taking place right now. You may already know, but our graduation requirements have been very consistent over the last few years. We have three main buckets when it comes to graduation requirements. The first is the high school and beyond plan. We start with students in 6th grade, and they continue each year completing the scope and sequence that we have in place for the high school and beyond plan, completing tasks, planning their future, until it culminates in the college and career readiness seminar in senior year, which is a district requirement. And with that last class, they end up finishing their college applications. They start job applications. They do mock interviews. They end up doing many steps that will prepare them for their life after high school. Then we always talk about, and it seems very familiar to us, our credit requirements, so those subject area requirements. So there are 24 credits that are required, 17 are in core credit areas, and then there's many opportunities for students to take electives or courses that meet whatever their plans are for post-graduation around their high school and beyond plan. And then the final requirement is something we call the graduation pathway. So what this has looked like in the past is a test. So the Smarter Balanced Assessment might be one version of that. But at this point, many years into this requirement, it also means many different kinds of courses that meet that requirement. It means tests like the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude, so that students can meet that and go on and use that for their graduation pathway and be ready for service. So many different options. We'll share a little bit more about that. So here we go with the different options. So advanced placement courses and exams meet our graduation pathways. The Armed Forces Vocational Aptitude Battery, so the ASVAB, so students ready for the military can take that and then meet the graduation pathway requirements. They can also take CTE courses, and there are specific pathways for those courses. So specific courses, a sequence that allows them to meet a particular pathway, and then it meets their graduation pathway. We have lots of dual credit courses. So those are our college and the high school courses, our CTE dual credit courses, and then also running start classes that count in English and in math that meet those requirements. And then new this year is our performance-based portfolio. So a new requirement that came out last year that we worked very diligently on is a requirement to have a portfolio or a pathway that students have choices about. And so we have an English and a math option. The English option focuses on what students are planning for their future and how they plan on arriving at that plan. So they do a lot of research about what 3 choices in their future will be. It could be different colleges, it could be different careers, and then they do some planning and steps around that and then complete a portfolio around that. For the math requirement, they also complete a portfolio. It's around financial literacy, but the same idea. What is your future plan? What is it that it will entail financially to do that plan? And then they lay out some of their research, and then they share that portfolio with their teacher, and it's assessed. So that meets the performance-based portfolio. Another option is the Scholastic Aptitude Test, the SAT. If we offered it, the ACT would also meet that option. We have state assessments, the Smarter Balanced Assessment, and the WAAIM that meet the requirements of the graduation pathways, and then many transition courses, and those are typically the Bridge to College math class. We don't offer it in our district, but Bridge to College English, which is offered in other districts. We also have requirements that allow students to be placed at the college level when they go on to any college or university. Any of the agreements that we have with those colleges, Everett Community College in particular, if students meet those requirements, they also will meet this as their graduation pathway. So if a student takes Algebra 2 and gets a C+ or higher, that allows a student to be placed at a college level math when they go to Everett Community College. That also allows them to meet the graduation pathway in this particular offering. So you can see there's a whole array of offerings for students to meet, and many students meet many different requirements before they graduate, which takes me to this slide. So for our graduates in the class of 2025, they needed to meet the English language arts and the math graduation pathways. And many of our students met many of the different pathways as they were continuing through high school. So many met 2 and 3 different options that were available to them, some many more. So the number one option that students completed was this transition course option. So students took specific courses that allowed them to be placed at the college level, placement level, if they were to go on. And so at a rate of 79%, that's what that option means. Our state assessments very close by, where students met at the test score that allowed them to meet the graduation pathway. CTE pathways, we offer lots of them. Students complete a sequence of courses. This was another offering that many of our students met, along with many others. The SAT, similarly, dual credit courses like college and the high school, Running Start, close behind there, and then AP courses and exams. So students are meeting it. This is a subset of dual credit, but definitely stands out because we saw a lot of growth in our advanced placement classes and exam taking. And so 7% increase. This is different. Most of them were a little increase, but this one really stood out with a 7% increase from last year. Many more kids taking classes. And then our new requirement, performance-based pathway portfolio. Nearly a quarter of our students completed that and used it as one of their pathway options. And then, similar to many years now, the ASVAB, a few of our students go on. We normally have between 20 and 30 students that choose the military when they graduate from us, and some of those students are taking the ASVAB. We have many systems and support to make sure that students have every opportunity to graduate on time. We have course equivalencies. That means courses that count for more than one content area at one time, so they take care of more than one requirement at a time. We have lots of credit recovery and competency-based course requirement or options that students can take in case they have either not taken a course but have actually met a course that's at a higher level. That's how they get competency-based, or credit recovery, they make up the course. We have dual credit courses that offer additional credit when they take a college level course. It often offers much more credit than just a high school class. Middle school courses for high school credit. We offer many middle school courses that start students off on their high school journey. Skills centers actually provide opportunities for students to earn credits while they're in an interest area of their own, so thinking about their future. We have courses during the school day that allow students to finish up requirements like credit recovery, the competency-based, anything else that they need more time on. We call those success time. SOAR at Everett High School, because it matches their seagull theme there. We have after school and Saturday school support options. And then we've had this great option for many years around world language assessment credit. Students who speak another language can actually take an exam, and based on the level at which that exam score comes back, they can earn credits, up to 4 full credits of language credit as a result. We have many summer supports. We're about to start. We're ready for it. We have our summer academy at Eisenhower Middle School, which will have middle school and high school, but we're focused on high school tonight. And there we'll see our tuition-based online high school that started yesterday morning. We have our credit recovery courses, about 500 students ready to be there. We have a multilingual learner program and a special education program that takes place there as well. We have career exploration. We have mentorships and internships that are taking place with our CT department, helping with all of those pieces. And then we've been offering Empower You, which is a course that's online that helps students focus on their well-being, make sure that they're set up for goal setting. And this is a way to basically be a wraparound and support for students who may need that additional support during the summer. And then we have many staff, our success coordinators, we have teachers who are on site at summer school, who sit with students, who follow up with students, who call, who make sure in a gentle, kind way that we're making sure that students are able to finish their last requirements. So leading up to summer graduation, because we're not done graduating students, but we still have a little bit more here. So we had a few more students that will finish through the summer. And then we also have our own programs that help students who have dropped out or were behind in credits. Those are Graduation Alliance, and then Everett Community College, the U3 program. So those are housed under our school that we call Everett Re-Engagement Academy. Right now we have about 300 students in those programs. And and many of them are on their way to graduating. And so if you join us for summer, what you will see is that many of the students at this point are actually graduating from those programs. They graduate throughout the year, but we always offer to them to come to the commencement in the summer so we can celebrate them. And with that, I want to thank you for letting me share all of this information.
Thank you. Great news. Are there any questions or comments?
I always love this presentation. Our graduation rates are truly a point of pride for our district. And to hear all the different ways that students are supported, there's a place for every student. And
Absolutely.
Not one size fits all. And so it's wonderful to hear, all those students succeeding. I was curious, the performance-based portfolios, so the first year, actually that 24%, that was more than I was thinking, but then that's embedded in the college and career readiness, correct? So that's
Yes.
where that is taking place.
That's right. And still we have students who finish that course and don't finish the portfolio, but more and more we're seeing students take us up on that offer and go ahead and finish it because it allows them to plan for their future as well.
Yeah.
So it's hard to make it through the class and not just do those extra steps. So we saw many students figure out their paths, define different options. Maybe
Yeah.
they thought there was only one, or to think through it. So we have lots of great exemplars from all sorts of kids with lots of backgrounds that are going to be really good to share with other kids as they go forward.
Yeah, well, congratulations also on getting that first year. It sounds like a lot of great work, and so it's fantastic to think of the students having that experience to prep them for life after high school. So thank you, that's it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Smiling? Nothing? Just smiling?
I'm just,
Oh, good.
I love it too. I just,
Good. Yeah, just reading those facial cues. So I just have a question about the fifth-year senior.
Sorry, I took the presentation
Oh,
down. I
that's
thought we were
fine,
near the
that's
end.
fine,
I
that's fine.
apologize.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. It's just a quick question, because those fifth-year seniors, do they have to go all the way till June, or are they just doing the same sort of credit recovery, so if they get done in December? Or is there, are there other options for them instead of, I just think those, 2 students here, 3 students there, the awkwardness of going back to high school? How do we
Every
keep them-
student is a different story.
Okay.
So we have students that will need a full year, but most of the students really don't need a complete year. They can finish in well, it's actually January. They'll finish up a semester. Some of them need more and less credits. A few students that their IEP wants, it asks for them to remain longer, but they're not in a transition program. So we have a range of different students, and each has a different way that they're managing to the end. 2 of them that I know of need credit recovery, and they'll get a lot of support finishing that. So no matter, there's very few of them, they will all have a lot of support in returning. We'll make sure that they navigate all the way through and that they're going to graduate.
And then the
Yeah.
second question for that Graduation Alliance, just like the students with special needs, we can serve them up until 22,
We can if they have an IEP, but otherwise 21.
21, okay.
That's right.
Okay, because I
And we
know
have
that-
kids definitely at 20. I was signing up some kids just even this last 2 weeks. They're ready to go.
Yeah, because sometimes at 16, 17, you're not, but, a high school diploma is so much more important for so many jobs and future steps than a GED.
That's right.
And it's the GED, it does not, it might be something, but that high school, so
We
I
don't
love
see
that.
very many students take us up on the GED offer.
Yeah.
Our programs do offer GED, but they will say that they want that. They start and they switch to the high school diploma.
Especially if you have any kind of plan.
Yeah.
Colleges don't take it, but it is just so great. I love the stories, because I'll talk to those kids, or, that it's their opportunity. So it's wonderful. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so that takes us to our third quarter financial report. Ms. Tress, sorry I don't have as much excitement, but it's always good news.
This is my.
Wait, hold on. I think,
Penguin from right there.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
oh,
A penguin recon.
yeah,
I get excited about this information.
yes.
Well, the good news is there's not significant changes from last month, but we'll go over a few things. There's a little additional information. So thank you, Board of Directors, Dr. Saltzman, President Mitchell. Tonight, I will review the third quarter financial report for the 24-25 fiscal year. In tonight's consent agenda item, there was additional information and details for your reference if you choose to review it or take a look at it. We will go over the district's general fund, its enrollment, revenues, expenditures, and fund balance, as well as review the district's 4 other major comprehensive funds, which include the Capital Projects Fund, the Debt Service Fund, the Associated Student Body Fund, and the Transportation Vehicle Fund. As we begin reviewing the district's general fund enrollment, as it drives over 60% of our revenues for the fiscal year, we are on track to meet our projections, as well as be over our overall adopted budget, as we noted at the beginning of this fiscal year. And ultimately, we're not seeing any significant changes even throughout the remainder of this year. I want to highlight this is the annual average student enrollment, as this reflects the enrollment that drives our funding mechanisms within the state. Good news is we are growing as a district. We're still not back pre-pandemic, but we do anticipate in future years, in the next few years, to actually be back to our enrollment prior to that pandemic. What that means for the overall projected revenues, there have been no significant changes from May's revenue projections. As I mentioned before, we're anticipating a slight increase from April. However, revenues in general are following prior year revenue trends, as reflected on this graph here. As you can see, October and April are our high points when we receive our revenues, as this is the districts, we receive our property tax collections in the October and April timeframe as well. Looking at our overall total projected expenditures, we are projecting a slight increase from April projections, really based on what we're actually seeing for the month, but not a real significant change from what we're expecting throughout the year. When we look at our monthly expenditure trends, they're aligning with what we typically see at this point year to date. However, you don't see a typical pattern in our monthly projected monthly expenditure trends, as this is driven by our materials, supplies, and operating costs. That does fluctuate month to month based on the fact that we are able to process those payments over 4 or 5 weeks, depending on the amount of weeks in that month. We are still seeing our materials and supplies and operating costs being higher than our overall budget. However, that is offset by our staffing expenditures being lower than our overall budget. In addition, we are still within board-approved appropriations and don't anticipate going over those at this point in time. What that means for our overall fund balance is that we're still projecting a fund balance of 8.4%, which is higher than our adopted budget of 7.5% of our total expenditures. This has been around what we've been seeing throughout the rest of this year, and this is really driven by a slightly higher beginning funding balance, higher than budgeted enrollment, and aligning our overall staffing costs. So we're right on trend with what we would expect to see at this point in time. I want to highlight the monthly fund balance trend. It does dip a little bit lower than prior patterns, and that's really driven by the fact that of timing of when we've been receiving in historical years actual federal grants where we had ESSER funding or COVID-related pandemic funding, and we tended to collect or claim those at the end of the year, and we're seeing, as we don't have any more of those funding resources, we're seeing that dip a little bit more than we typically would, and that'll kind of balance out in future years. I wanted to highlight and kind of a preview what you'll see next week as our fiscal outlook. And so this is really just a reflection of what you saw in December, where our projections were and where we're currently sitting from our May projections overall. And you really don't see a change in trend, but the big change here is the fact that we don't anticipate having to make reductions in the 26-27 budget fiscal year. And so that is the real difference in the change. And that is driven by the fact that we do anticipate increased levy capacity from the 2025 legislative session, it really does mitigate our overall reductions. We're still anticipating a little bit of our expenditures to be higher than our revenues, but that will slowly decline as levy capacity increases over the next 4 years based on what the state allows us to collect. As we move to the 4 other major comprehensive funds, I'll begin discussing the Capital Projects Fund. So this fund supports major construction projects as well as technology initiatives, and we have shifted how the district receives funding related to this fund. We're primarily receiving our funding from a levy source, and so we are starting to see a high fund balance in our October timeframe and our April timeframe. The one thing about a shift from levies to bonds is that levies, you have to build up a fund balance to support your major projects across that levy project. And so we are coming towards the year 4 of this levy. And so you'll see that we're building enough to do the replacement projects that we are doing over the next few years, which include Jackson Elementary and Madison Elementary. We still have anticipated expenditures of 50 to 55 million remaining for Jackson Elementary. And you'll see, as you'll see in our budget adoption for next year, for next fiscal year, project cost related to Madison Elementary as well. Appropriations do align with their multi-year project plan. However, they do shift things throughout based on timing of project needs and where they're at within those plans as well. As we look at the debt service fund, this fund supports the district's outstanding bond principal. We have just under 70 million remaining outstanding at this point in time, and for the remainder of this year. It supports the principal and interest related to these bonds, and this will fluctuate based on our bond payment schedule. The fund balance is sufficient to support the remaining schedule as well, and the fund balance trending line is aligning to what we anticipate and expect at this point in time of the year. Looking at the Associated Student Body Fund, this fund supports student activities and athletics, and generally fall is the high point of the year in our fund balance, because we have significant amount of fundraisers related to our ASB cards and yearbook sales in the beginning of the year. We are seeing a slightly less of a decline than we typically would at this point of the year, and that's really driven by the fact that we have some larger activities happening this month and next month to support some of them, so we'll see that decline start to happen in the future months as well. And then the Transportation Vehicle Fund. This supports the use of district-owned buses. We estimate depreciation to be about $379,000, and we still have 2 buses on order, and we still do anticipate to get them this fiscal year. The remaining of our state funding support for transportation is in our general fund as we contract out our busing services as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Dr. Herman?
Oh, first, thank you. You've kept us really informed all year long, and I'm looking forward to next week's presentation with the operating budget. And as you've done in the past, I'll be really curious what uncertainties we may still have going forward. And so just continuing to call that out. But
Will do.
yeah, I appreciate this.
Thank you.
Point of interest, I think the monthly budget updates are very helpful, and they will be continued.
Thank you, because I know I asked, we did it, like I asked Dr. Salson one time, we used to have them just literally quarterly, and then the pandemic and things that happened, and then the reduction, and so this keeping us fully transparent to the community, the health of our district, and thank you for your work as well as every single person in this whole district that helps keep us in this financial health. You have shared that before, that it's not just you and your team, it is everybody.
It is everyone.
So thank you so much. And that takes us to section 14.0, unfinished business. There is none for this meeting. Section 15.0, new business. There's none for this meeting. Section 16.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Saltzman, what do we have planned?
Thank you, Madam Chair and the Board of Directors. At the July 1st regular meeting, the Board Agenda will contain the following: the 2025-2026 budget adoption, first reading, and approval of surplus technology. At the August 14th special meeting, directors will attend the summer commencement. Thank you.
That takes us to section 17.0, executive or closed session. Tonight, the board will hold an executive session to discuss the purchase, sale, or lease of property. At this time, the regular meeting is recessed for approximately 5 minutes to be reconvened in executive session in the Silver Lake Room for approximately 30 minutes. No action may be taken during an executive session. Thank you. Oops, I don't know, I didn't mean to do that. We are at recess, that was a... I think you can really staff. Okay, we are going to extend our executive session by 10 minutes. Thank you, approximately 10 minutes. Okay, I would like to reconvene the regular meeting, which takes us to item 18.01, adjournment. The June 24th regular meeting of the Board of Directors is now adjourned.